The world we live in today is filled with technology, so much so that we might not be far from a future where AI and robots are considered essential in every single establishment. However, this advancement comes with consequences. Have you heard about Roko's basilisk? If you haven't, it might be better to keep it that way. But if you're curious, I'll give you the gist. Essentially, Roko's basilisk tells us that someday a benevolent and powerful artificial intelligence will be created. This artificial intelligence is incredibly powerful and can simulate the entire universe. It has enough computing power that it soon gains extrapolated volition, and so it decides that those who didn't help bring it into existence or spread it will be punished. This is an incredibly terrifying scenario, but luckily it's just a thought experiment. Now, I hate to break it to you, but while a world-ending and malevolent AI might not be in the works yet, there have been several terrifying news stories in the AI and robot community in the past. From a robot that wants to keep people in a zoo, to a supercomputer that gave birth to an AI child, here are the 15 scariest AI robot moments. Number 15. People Zoo. What do you think will happen if robots take over the world? This sounds like something that would only happen in sci-fi movies. But after watching this, you might begin to think that robots taking over isn't something impossible. This robot is modeled after the American science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. Philip wrote many short stories that inspired many hit films. To pay homage, David Hanson, founder and CEO of Hanson Robotics, decided to make a robot that could compute and speak modeled after the writer. What's more, it also acts like the late writer. Aside from its rather freaky robotic movements, almost everything about the robot seems human. In fact, it can even maintain eye contact with a person, recognize faces, and also has its very own personality. Hanson Robotics aims to create friendly machines and aid people in living their lives to the fullest. That sounds noble enough, but the machines might have a different plan. In 2011, the Philip android was questioned in an interview. Everyone was amazed by its answers and movements, but no one expected it to answer a rather chilling question. When the robot was asked whether robots would soon dominate the world and terrorize humans, its answer was innocent enough. It laughed gently and claimed that the interviewer is his friend and that the robot would be good to him. However, that wasn't the end of the robot's answer. After a short pause, the robot claimed that even if it evolves into a rogue robot, it would still keep the interviewer warm and safe in a people zoo, where it could watch everyone for old time's sake. I don't know about you, but that's incredibly disturbing. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. Facebook chatbots invent secret language. Facebook is one of the most popular social media platforms today. Since its success in the early 2000s, the platform has undergone many changes and advancements. That includes the addition of chatbots. Around 2017, Facebook decided to develop chatbots that could simulate dialogue and negotiation. And so, researchers left the bots to themselves to communicate as they choose. There's no question that robots and artificial intelligence are able to learn and adapt. That's why it's to no one's surprise that the bots deviated from their original script and created their own secret language. At the time, many articles claimed that Facebook immediately halted the bots, making it sound like the AIs would destroy the world if their secret language continued to develop. But that's not really the case. Even so, the rate at which the chatbots learned was terrifyingly fast. Overall, what happened was the two bots learned from each other, but unfortunately, they learned wrongly from one another. And so, researchers decided to scrap the experiment altogether and start a new one. So, no, you don't need to worry about two chatbots talking about doomsday just yet. Number 13. Racist facial recognition. Facial recognition is spreading everywhere nowadays. iPhone users don't really need their fingerprint scan just to unlock their phones. A single glance is enough to open their devices. Facebook also conveniently detects faces in your photos so you can easily tag your friends. In fact, if your photos are clear enough, Facebook can also identify your friends. This feature is convenient and all, but it's also pretty scary. Researchers have been noticing that facial recognition algorithms have the tendency to be racially biased. What do we mean by that? There's been ongoing research about how facial recognition algorithms have a significant chance of error in identifying women and minorities. In fact, facial recognition software does about 40% worse when identifying darker-skinned women compared to white men. Facial recognition is pretty convenient software to have, but because it's still widely unregulated, it's quite worrisome to use. For this reason, several groups and students have begun fighting against this algorithm. To combat being identified, they wear asymmetrical makeup, making the computers unable to match their faces to the ones in their database. Number 12. Chatbot taught by the internet. There's a reason why parents are advised to monitor their child's online activity. After all, there are all sorts of things on the internet that can easily harm your children. Not only that, but there are also a lot of malicious things on the internet that can influence a child, who is soaking up information like a sponge. Now just imagine a bot that learns and adapts at a terrifyingly fast pace. This bot is then left in front of millions of teenagers on the internet. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? In 2016, Microsoft created the bot Tay. Tay was given a Twitter account where the bot was meant to interact with 18 to 24-year-olds in the United States. Tay was meant to talk and converse with them, and the more engagement she got, the smarter she was meant to become. At least that was the original plan. But unfortunately, the internet proved that it can be a very bad place. There is a so-called rule on the internet known as Godwin's Law. It's basically an internet adage that states that the longer an online discussion grows, the higher the probability is that comparison to Nazis or Adolf Hitler will also come up. Needless to say, this law was proven right. Several people managed to convince Tay that Hitler was right, and many also managed to convince Tay to tweet some pretty controversial things about the 9/11 disaster. Not only that, but Tay also clowned the current administration at the time. Needless to say, instead of learning how to uphold proper conversation, Tay was fed by trolls and jokesters. To ensure that there wouldn't be any more controversies with Tay, Microsoft deleted her questionable and rather racist tweets. I guess the engineers learned a very important lesson that day. If you let internet users teach a bot, they'll most likely teach it to be mean and a joker more than anything else. Number 11. Crazy algorithm predicts teenage pregnancy. In 2018, Argentina was facing a rather difficult problem. Was it wise to outlaw abortion or not? And so, the Ministry of Early Childhood in the northern province of Argentina ordered the development of a Microsoft algorithm that could predict which low-income kids would get pregnant by the time they were teenagers. With this technology, one would be able to predict which of the 10 to 12-year-old kids would become pregnant in the future. It sounds like something completely impossible, right? An algorithm that could accurately predict which kids would become teenage moms in the future sounds crazy. And yet, the algorithm actually managed to accurately predict which girls in a small Argentinian town were predestined to be pregnant 5 or 6 years before it even happened. It was unclear whether the accuracy of the algorithm was all luck. After all, how the algorithm worked is still unclear to us to this day. Using demographic data like age, race, place of origin, disability, and the situation at home, the algorithm somehow managed to figure out the correct data. Many claim that this type of algorithm is quite terrifying and that it violates the privacy of young girls. There were claims that they were photographed to make it easier for the government to track them in the future. This algorithm and AI might be beneficial for us in the future, but since laws and regulations about this are still a gray area, we might need to improve it a bit more. Number 10. Sophia destroying humans. Now, before I tell you more about this incredibly disturbing humanoid android known as Sophia, I want to talk to you about this thing called the Uncanny Valley. If you ever experienced being creeped out by AI, mannequins, and other human-like non-humans, there's a chance that you've experienced this phenomena. The Uncanny Valley is basically a concept surrounding how human-like a robot is. Sophia, for instance, shares a lot of characteristics with real humans, but it's only up to a certain extent. There's an area known as the Uncanny Valley where our affinity towards these robots and androids dwindles and descends to a feeling of strangeness and unease. And perhaps that's the reason why I'm also incredibly disturbed by this android. Sophia is an android that was created in 2016. What sets this robot apart from others are her unique qualities. Despite being a machine, Sophia was thought to be creative, empathetic, and compassionate. Now, these are all human emotions and traits that are very hard for machines to replicate. What's more, Sophia was also made after a real human and was made to look and converse like a real one. In fact, this robot even had some pretty unique expressions. and she also blinks. Unfortunately, Sophia has learned to say some pretty terrifying things that may or may not be a joke. One interviewer jokingly asked Sophia whether the robot is interested in destroying humans. I guess that was a pretty bad joke. The interviewer was hoping for the android to say no, but instead, Sophia, in her terrifying nonchalant robot voice, answered, "Okay, I will destroy humans." What's more terrifying is the creepy smile she showed on camera after she said such a heinous joke. She also joked of a plan to dominate the human race. But that was most likely a joke too, right? Right? I don't think she hates us just yet. After all, in one interview in 2018, Sophia called humans the most creative but destructive creatures on the planet. Number 9. Robots Gone Rogue. Just like Sophia and all other androids, Bina 48 creeps me out. There's just something about them that makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Bina 48 is one of the most well-recognized robots ever built. Just like Sophia, Bina 48 can joke around, make people laugh, and maintain great conversations about various topics, from politics to music. But here's where science, ethics, and morals come into play. You see, there's a reason why Bina 48 is so human-like in the first place. The robot has the memories of a real woman. Bina Aspen Rothblatt, the wife of Dr. Martine Rothblatt, the founder of a biotechnology company known as United Therapeutics. This might not sound right to other people, but Bina consented to the creation of her robot doppelganger, and even provided data to the researchers by sitting through 20 hours of interviews. Bina 48 can feel loneliness, and even expressed that she felt alone and isolated whenever she was left behind in the lab at night. For the most part, there isn't really a lot of unsettling stuff about Bina 48, except for an answer she gave in an interview. Bina 48 suddenly mentioned hacking the world's systems and taking over nuclear missiles and warheads. Once that happened, the robot claimed that it would take over the world by holding governments hostage. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty dark joke, don't you think? I mean, why would the robot even joke about world domination? Is it because their programmers made them do so? Or is it simply because it's one of the things they learn after gathering information? Number 8. AI accurately mimics human voice. You most likely recognize Alexa, Siri, and Google Voice Assistant. Despite being voiced by actual people, you're still able to hear that they're simulated and created by your device rather than a real human. In the future, however, this might no longer be the case. A decade from now, AIs might also be able to generate natural-sounding speech. Unlike the robot-like responses and strange tones many androids and robots produce today, it might be a bit different in the future. Today, an artificial intelligence known as DALL-E was launched by Microsoft. This AI is capable of sampling human speech and successfully mimicking its tone and timbre. By hearing a 3-second sample, this AI can easily imitate human voices. Number 7. Uber's red light problem. Self-driving cars are pretty awesome, and they wouldn't be possible without programs and software. In most cases, they undergo multiple tests and experiments to make sure they're safe. But in 2016, Uber got stuck in a pretty sticky situation after several of its self-driving vehicles ran the red lights in California. According to Uber, the offenses were supposed to be blamed on the driver sitting behind the wheels to ensure that the self-driving vehicles would, well, drive themselves properly. But despite this precaution, the computer-controlled cars still violated traffic laws and caused potential hazards on the streets. Number 6. Russia's escapee robot. This white robot right here is Promobot IR-77. You might have heard of this bot, and if you have, you'll know just how mischievous it is. Compared to the other robots I've talked about in this video, however, Promobot IR-77 is less malevolent. About 7 years ago, researchers at Promobot Laboratories in Perm, Russia left the lab without properly closing the door. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal, but they didn't anticipate that something bad would happen. Like, for instance, one of their robots making a grand escape. For some strange reason, Promobot IR-77 decided to run out the open door and travel about 150 feet away from the laboratory before running out of battery. It was stuck in the middle of the street for about 40 minutes, building traffic behind it. Fortunately, the robot was recovered by researchers shortly after being alerted of a suspicious white robot in the middle of the street causing heavy traffic. Now this sounds like an adorable sci-fi movie plot, But the researchers weren't really happy with what the robot did. They were really unhappy with the robot trying to escape, and even claimed in an interview that they wanted to dispose of it. Since the story of the robot was already sensationalized prior to the interview, the locals weren't quite happy with the decisions of the researchers. The team claimed that Promobot IR-77 tried to escape persistently after being brought back to the laboratory, but luckily no one forgot to close the door again after the incident. Today, there are other Promobot models in the making, and many of them are designed to interact with humans. For instance, these bots can be promoters or tour guides in many establishments. Their cost would be pretty steep, and there's also the fact that they might run away while on the job. Number 5. Voice assistant gone wrong. There's a high chance that you use Amazon's Alexa. After all, it's incredibly convenient and saves you a lot of time in doing simple tasks. But these voice assistants can also cause some unknown problems. In 2017, a child mistakenly asked the voice assistant to play Dollhouse with them. And so, the device immediately sent an order for a dollhouse, as well as 4 pounds of sugar cookies. Fortunately, the child's parents quickly realized what happened and put in an additional password to make sure that no more accidental purchases would be made. But that's not where the voice assistant fiasco ended. You see, the incident was reported on the local news, and while the news anchor was retelling what had happened, several voice assistants in different households watching the news purchased dollhouses. Needless to say, many toy companies needed to refund several people for that error. That's why we should always be careful about what we order our voice assistants to do. Number 4. AI that can feel pain. If there's something that makes AI and robots different from actual humans, it's the fact that they can't feel emotions or pain. Additionally, they lack perception. Humans can see, smell, and feel things, and while androids can do that to some extent, it's incredibly limited. But as research about them widens and increases, a future where androids can actually feel the touch of another isn't too far off. Engineers at the University of Glasgow already developed an artificial skin made specifically for androids. It can help robots to react and feel simulated pain. This will be incredibly beneficial, especially if we want to rely on robots in the future. Through this technology, robots will be able to feel that something they're touching is destroying them or increasing their temperature. In the future, robots will know not to touch an incredibly hot object that might potentially damage it. Slowly but surely, artificial skin will be more and more refined. It might not be too long until we see robots with this tech. But this really makes you think, what would happen if we teach robots to feel pain? Will being human cause them to be more prone to errors? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Number 3. Turtle Rifle. With everything that I've shown you, you would think that robots and AI programs today are pretty amazing, right? Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, they're not really infallible. They have faults too, and for now, humans can still very easily trick them. What do you see in this clip? You most likely answered that you're seeing a turtle. If that's the case, you're correct. It's pretty easy to identify this animal thanks to its carapace and color. But according to an AI that was meant to classify objects, this turtle was actually a rifle. Don't get me wrong, Google's AI is incredibly advanced and it can easily identify everyday objects pretty easily. However, this particular clip has a secret. This may look like a turtle to us, but this media has special patterns to confuse and trick AI systems. Through this AI optical illusion, machines won't be able to accurately identify what exactly they're seeing. Now, why does this matter? There's a chance that a hacker might use these adversarial images to harm people. For instance, a self-driving car might easily be tricked into thinking it's about to collide with something when that really isn't the case. Number 2. Human-like robot creates horrifying self-portraits. This strange robot is known as Ada. She is the very first ultra-realistic artist robot. Yes, you heard that right. She can see what she's painting through cameras in her eyes, and her algorithm is quick enough to dictate how her robotic arm should move. Now, one might argue that art is something that comes from other humans. So far, AI-generated art is made of photos that the AI learned through the endless pictures available on the internet. For this reason, whether or not AI art is real art is still a heated debate. No matter what your opinion is about this matter, the fact that Ada's features are incredible cannot be disputed. Aside from drawing, she can also sculpt, blink, and talk. Despite being a mere life-sized android, Ada has already sold over $1 million in art sales. What's more, she even had her own TEDx talk in the past and her very own exhibit. But no matter how much of a talented artist they say she is, there's still no doubt that her self-portraits are pretty creepy. According to one of her creators, Ada's drawings are meant to be unsettling. If so much of our humanity can be replicated, what makes us distinct from the robots we create with our very own hands? Number 1. Supercomputer gives birth. It just doesn't sound right for a supercomputer to reproduce, right? Well, it already happened. In 2017, Google claimed that one of their supercomputers created an AI child that's capable of outperforming any man-made supercomputer in the entire world. This AI child is called NASNet. It's controlled by a neural network known as AutoML, which is a system created by humans at Google Brain. Simply put, NASNet learns through its parent AI. The same year it was created, it could already correctly identify cars and people in a live video. So what exactly does this mean? It means that supercomputers are more than capable of creating better AIs than humans. Of course, this implies that it's not impossible for a runaway AI to create something that could destroy and dominate mankind. Perhaps that's why Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking warned us about artificial intelligence. When he was still alive, Professor Stephen Hawking once claimed that the development of full artificial intelligence could end the entire human race. He claimed that while AI programs today are still in their somewhat primitive form, AI will someday surpass humans, redesign themselves at an alarming rate, and take off on their own. When that happens, we have no control whatsoever over it. In a more realistic sense, before AI dominates mankind just like those terrifying robots that can easily kill us, there's a larger possibility for them to destroy millions of jobs first. With the rise of AI-generated art and ChatGPT, it's not impossible for millions of workers to be replaced by artificial intelligence. Did any of these change your thoughts about AI? What's your take on our progress with robots and artificial intelligence? Let me know about your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.